the top 10 photography mistakes that you should avoid when shooting at the beach. Don't ignore the time of day, whether you're shooting early morning sunrise or mid-afternoon kind of harsh light, you want those shadows, or going back down to the evening or sunset hours. Be intentional about what you want to shoot. That way you're not disappointed when you get there. Remember to keep your mind and your eyes on the time of day so that you can get the best shots for your beach visit for photography. Tip number 2 is to think about the environment that you're in, such as the sand and the salt water and the air in and around your camera and your gear. Protect your gear. Remember where your backpack is at all times. If you're laying it on the ground and there's incoming waves and water, be mindful of where your backpack is and where your tripod is if you're using one, because they can tend to sink as the water comes through. Be mindful of your gear when shooting at the beach. Tip number 3, do not forget to adjust your white balance, or at least have the proper white balance that you're comfortable with, because you may not capture the true colors and the essence of the surroundings of the beach area that you're in. So whether you're in manual or whether you're in auto, make sure you test it out and that the beach scene looks picture perfect for you. Adjust your white balance. Tip number 4, this is an easy one. Don't forget about the horizon line. Use the leveler inside of your camera, or be mindful on the grids, if you have the grids on the back of your LCD screen or in the eyepiece, that when you're looking out into infinity, as far as your eye can see, that you're trying to keep the image as level as possible so you have nice straight lines and your composition is ooh la la, super good. Remember, keep your horizon line level. Tip number 5, do not forget about your composition rules when you're out shooting at the beach. Leading lines, framing, rule of thirds, all of these things can be important in creating an engaging image. So don't forget, when you're out there shooting, take your time, frame it up, and if it's the shot you want, then it's the right shot. Rule of thirds, framing, leading lines, those are just a few suggestions to get that engaging image. All right, tip number 6, do not forget to capture the moment. At the beach, you have slow-moving clouds, you have crashing waves, you have people. These are the things that you can capture at the beach, so be cognizant that you can change your shutter speed to slow it down, to capture motion in the water, or speed it up and get crashing waves against rocks and capture that exact moment when that spray hits those rocks. These are the things, the people diving into the ocean or walking around. Just be cognizant about capturing the moment. That is tip number 6. Tip number 7, don't forget about your filters. Filters can be very helpful when you're at the beach, especially when the sun has risen. So if you want to take a little shine off of the waves and the water, and you want to kind of peek through that water, or the top level of it, and get rid of that shine, you might want to use a polarizer. A polarizer will help in that. You might want to use a neutral density filter, which can stop down the light a little bit on your lens and into your sensor, and that way you can slow down your shutter speed so you can capture some movement in the waves. So don't forget about using filters when you're out here at the beach. Tip number 8, this is about post-processing. Yes, it's not necessarily at the beach, it's back at home on your computer in your editing software, but the pictures that you did take at the beach, maybe they're a little overexposed, maybe they're a little underexposed. So now you can take those sliders in whatever program you're using and edit those photos a little bit to add a little contrast, a little saturation, or a little less contrast and a little less saturation. All these edits to your final image can make a world of difference. So take your time, move those sliders to get that memory of that shot that you took at the beach. Tip number 9, don't forget to back up your photos as soon as you can. Oftentimes it's not possible depending on how many SD cards you have or if you have a computer handy, but nonetheless, whenever you can, if you have multiple SD cards, every now and then, switch out the SD cards at the very least, so then you know that those are safe and protected and you're moving on with your shoot. Change out or back up your SD cards. Back them up. And tip number 10, be mindful of the human element. As much as possible, or when you can and when it's appropriate to the photography that you're shooting, try to include or incorporate the human element, people, the surroundings, what is actually happening in your area, so it tells a story. Sometimes it doesn't work if you're shooting landscape photography and you don't necessarily want a person in it. Sometimes it adds scale, but nonetheless, if the opportunity arises and you're able to include a person, then add the human element. 10 photography tips to avoid. I'll see you on the next one.